For my anniversary, I want to release this video with a speech in 4 languages, 4 or 3: English, Spanish, Portuguese, and Russian. I talk about my life, my journey, my principles, and my goals. I could call this video "I'm homeless, I left Russia for the second time and maybe forever." The first time I thought so too. At first, the main idea was to close my old YouTube channel and start a new project with this video. But after thinking it through, I leave it as is, as a story, and release video in different languages on this channel. I'll try to understand myself, who I am, what I strive for, and what I've achieved. Life is a journey of self-discovery, along which people, mostly out of ignorance, make mistakes or have limited work views. Of course, first of all, you shouldn't compare yourself to anyone else, but simply enjoy this film, your life. The main thing is to be a character in it, not a sleepy viewer. It's not just living to eat and eating to live. I dedicate this video to reevaluating values. To evaluate something, you need to know all the criteria. When I thought about this, about my values, I realized that they change over time, unlike the superhuman Rourke, the person I was in school, at university, and now are all different people. By the way, did you know that even your body completely renews itself, and the you of 7 years ago is completely different you today at the cellular level? Let's start with the fact that I simply have nothing to cling to in this old world in Russia. Anyone who sees Blade Runner, my favorite movie, understands that our world is not just the world of people. Star Wars, also my favorite saga, depicts these worlds. Believe it or not, it's your choice. Whether you believe it or not, it won't change the world around you. Our world will be rebuilt. It wants to be rebuilt. Apparently, this old world must destroy itself and be rebuilt anew. I have nothing to protect here, nothing to gain from it, only debts, but there is no time to stay and work them off. It's time to leave. I must use my last chance before the Iron Curtain. I just want to discover something new, a new world, a new future. Ideally, I'd fly off to another planet. That's a joke, of course, partially. Or live 7 years in Tibet and come back when this world has once again embraced development. Perhaps 7 years won't be enough. And why bother with Tibet when there are places where mangoes grow all around, there's plenty of water. You could even bury your passport. Or not. Many commentators will say, as they always say, because they are paid to do so, stay, you are slave, die here, where you were born. They will say you never had anything and you won't have anything there. And anyway, you are a nuisance to everyone on earth. Just think about it. What did Don Juan need from people and the system? What did Socrates in the movie Peaceful Warrior need? Or the Vikings who sailed to America? They're not parasites. Don't be a parasite either. Don't be Peter Keating. Create for yourself. Have the right to act and don't ask anyone, my friends. Now you're real. Now you need a real name. Joe. You are no longer K. In Russia, I won't have a wife or children, and in my new place, I am not just a red-haired Russian or Udmurt since I'm from a mixed family and was born in Ijevsk, but a gringo after all. You are a gringo in any country except your own. Of course, in my subconscious, I have a desire to get married and have a child, maybe more than one. I need to work on this project outside of Russia too. So, the backstory of this realization is as follows. In 2022, I left Russia for India. I left and thought it was forever. I thought I'd find a new home, better to live in the jungles by the ocean, better than living the way I do in Russia, aimlessly on my own. I needed to reboot my life, but start somewhere I've never been before. But it is not that I am lazy. On the contrary, I work hard all the time, but I haven't really earned anything in Russia. And as the saying goes, you shouldn't expect different results if you do the same thing over and over again. Incidentally, I wouldn't have come back if the Yankees hadn't deported me. They bought me all the tickets from their detention center. I was even happy then because the main thing is freedom. Freedom is paradise. What have I already done and what I am striving for? This is about completing an all-stage project in my life and beginning a new one, a complete reboot. A stage in a new place like a phoenix, burning and being reborn. Memories of past lives? Using real memories is illegal. Replicants' stability is maintained by memories. Since their natural life cycle is short, they are implanted with other people's childhood memories to stabilize their emotions and prevent the development of empathy. Ultimately, this whole situation isn't against countries or the system. It's specifically against replicants like you. I need to assimilate in new place. I need to learn the language. I need to work. Various jobs, if needed, work on a construction site as a mechanic, a bus driver, a four-axle Neplan, a hairdresser, or trained to be a massage therapist. So you can join a company as an apprentice, taking into account your language proficiency. Perhaps open a real estate agency or language center. By the way, you need to pass the TOEFL English exam. A gym, your own business, or motorcycle delivery service. Rent a taxi, open a cafe or restaurant, get an engineer's license for furniture and or hardware, work as a foreman, a laborer, a sailor on a ship, or even open a travel agency, work driving trucks in mines and quarries. You'll need to travel to where the work is. Work like Howard Rourke from Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead, if necessary as an architect, but also in a granite mine, or Mike, who worked on every major construction site in the US. Become a wandering monk or practice martial arts in a temple. Why not? It seems this life isn't long enough to do everything your soul has done in past incarnations. Work as a handyman, build, paint walls, tend to plants like a gardener, work on a farm like your ancestors. They lived a peasant life, receiving everything from earth. Perhaps find a rare profession where your mindset is needed. Go there, they teach this rare work, and develop yourself. Or get a job at a school or university, teach what you know well while simultaneously improving your skills in these fields: math, languages, physical education. Submit your resume to reach people, become a personal driver, open a cleaning company, a bakery. You can also work in a shopping mall or distribution center. If there is no room for you in local companies, go work for international ones. Maybe I'll just develop my YouTube channel in different languages using popular search queries and artificial intelligence. Buy a bike and travel around new places without a home or a destination. Watch topless girls on the beaches of ocean of seas. Maybe I should sign up for couch surfing and stay at everyone's house or just sleep under the open sky and a tent. Drop your self-importance and buy clothes at a second-hand store, the very place where you never shopped and thought you were cool and above it all. Drop your personal history and let go of everything old in your life. Just accept responsibility for your actions. As Don Juan said, there is no time for regrets, only for making decisions. Stop feeling sorry for yourself. To feel sorry for yourself, you must be important, irresponsible, and immortal. Choose the path of the heart. Reach your own integrity. Be cheerful, because a warrior is always cheerful. His love is unchanging. He loves this earth. We create our world with our internal dialogue. We make the same choices until we die. The warrior stops the internal dialogue. As you can see, I am considering every option, not knowing what will work, where I will live. I wasn't born today. I never counted on a pension in Russia. It's an illusion. Only Soviet people could work in one job at one factory their entire lives. I was born before perestroika, glasnost and reforms. It's hard for me to think otherwise when my childhood was spent during the new Russia. The choice is limited. Either go to Siberia when the screws are tightened even more, but they will find me there, get me. A replicant's love of freedom doesn't bother its owner. Well, what to do with the unwanted replicants when they have all been sold? They just need to be removed somehow, so they don't get in the way. Maybe there is still a chance to start over with a clean page. I think no one has lost until they call themselves a loser. Find the strength to rise up every time life deals you unfairly. Don't be ground meat. Ground meat doesn't need money at all. Be the goal, be the essence of life, be a peaceful warrior, be an ascetic, be impeccable, take responsibility, be a Jedi monk, be a son of God. Don't be just meat. Don't be guided by the way ordinary people live, stuffing meat into meat, eating meat and controlling meat. Just as you don't be meat yourself, don't allow others around you to be meat. Live like Rourke, to improve, to work, to create. Don't close yourself off from the world. Be open and never get angry. We are all guests here. Similarly, never despair. Nothing matters until death touches you. Don Juan's death as advisor principle. You probably think it's safe in your apartment, but in reality, you could sleep in the bathtub. I once escaped from such an apartment myself, preparing to live by a lake in nature. Don Juan can survive in any conditions, while others won't even try and will simply die. As the saying goes, a ship without a goal has no tailwind. Of course, you need to prepare for everything, and you shouldn't climb to the top of a high mountain without training. Work on yourself every day. By the way, finding a disinfectant in nature can be difficult. In that case, use a compress made from your own urine. We humans live to discover and understand new worlds. Don't get caught in a vicious cycle. Eat to live and live to eat, and stop entertaining yourself and killing yourself. Get rid of unnecessary doping. Become an ascetic. Get rid of added sugar. By the way, there is a huge reserve of time, at least until 50 or even 60. Everyone chooses their own threshold, where you can live the way you want, like a traveler or a nomad, without being tied to a specific place. As for my past in Russia, I changed jobs whenever I wanted, when I was cheated on my salary. There was simply no other choice. During my student years, I worked as a security guard at a kindergarten, and then on machine tools during my summer internship. With a month of work, I could buy myself new pants for school. That's what a replicant salary really is. I graduated from university with a degree in mechanical engineering mechanics and went to work as an engineer at factory. My first salary wasn't enough to cover lunches in the cafeteria. Then I changed jobs and became a production foreman. Then, then my salary, then my salary doubled. I worked on machine tools, including CNC and universal machines, as an engineer, technologist, equipment and internet installer, taxi driver, and worked in furniture manufacturing, assembling and operating an Italian Busolata Optima C20 machine. How well I remember that name. I worked on construction sites and with construction crews. I've had many other jobs that I can't immediately recall. For example, studying in Argentina and working as a cook in a detention center. I'm adding more as I write this. Work is necessary. It's also one of my life's goals, even to learn the language, experience the culture, and so on. But about working in Russia, I'd say briefly, the master gets the money, the slave gets the job. I'm ready to do volunteer work. In fact, at first, it will be my main occupation. I'd like to volunteer for the church and other organizations, study and volunteer, study, and study. Your phone and computer aren't entertainment, they are a way to make money. You need to remember that you are holding a fishing rod. That's the girl from the Akashic Chronicles speaking. And don't give up. That's my guide from Mexico to the USA speaking. A fishing rod. Fishing rod. You need to solve problems, and the world and society will pay you for it. For example, some consultants earn millions in half an hour while others make videos for people, which is also a solution to their problems. As Winston Churchill said, never, never, never give up. Now my life purpose is immigration. Now we may be heading back to 2020 and it's better to look for a remote job. You'll say, decide which of these you choose. But we are not with some silly HR girl in the headhunter's office who tells me, decide whether you are an engineer or a craftsman. In life, you have to do what comes your way. You can't do it all. And I will do what brings in profit, not just for the sake of it. Maybe I should get a second seat in a truck, but first get my category E driver's license. Maybe not, maybe yes, why not? What would you do if you were terminally ill? Would you renounce your old life, abandon all material possessions, and simply live trusting in the power? Would you accumulate material possessions? What kind of work would you do? Would you clean out all the junk from your head? Everything here is temporary. Share with others, don't be greedy. God gives you, and when He wants, He takes it away. When I was in India, I met a man named Andrew. Andrew had gone to Asia to study spiritual practice with shamans. He told me, don't be afraid. Don't be afraid of death either. Only then will you move on to another higher level. Yes, our body is just a spacesuit. All religions are truly built on this, on fear, on the fear of death. On the fear of death. And to help you stop being afraid completely, I'll remind you of two more films: The Curious Case of Benjamin Button and Forrest Gump. These films are even similar in essence, they just have different chronologies. Just think about it. A person lived their life and they made a movie about it. A person's lived their life and they made a movie about it. Life is like a movie. Everything is finite, and this too shall pass. I also love the moment when young Brad Pitt, Benji, leaves everything behind and goes on a motorcycle to travel the world, working and living for himself. To fully understand the money issue, I will add a quote from a famous consultant whose name I've forgotten. Take a controversial idea and taste it. If it doesn't work, then take the next one, and so on. This applies to more than just money. Another friend of mine used to say this: make money, resell, buy something for $1, sell it for $3. You can sell anything. You can rent out yachts, apartments, cars, become someone's agent. This also worked in Goa with renting houses and apartments. As Robert Kiyosaki said, you need to create your own cash flow, water supply for life, not carry water by hand. Think and grow rich. Listen up. So I have a YouTube channel, this one. Maybe I will change the name. The story of its origins begins a little earlier than India itself. Why India? Because I lived there for 9 months in 2022-2023 while visiting Satya Sai Baba in Puttaparthi. I met a pilgrim named Nikolai who advised me to start this channel. At the time, I took it as advice from the Baba himself, coming from this guy. So that's how it all began. I shared this part of all the story in the video My Brazilian Story. In the fall of 2021, I received a summons for military training, even though I was already 34 years old, I think, and it was the year of the ongoing quarantine. I worked in production as a CNC machine operator shortly before or after that as a high precision lathe operator. And in response to the summons, I asked the production supervisor to confirm for the military registration and enlistment office that I was working in an essential production facility. I took the paperwork to the military registration and enlistment office and forgot about the summons. But in the spring, in February, when Russian operations, the so-called SVO, began, I remember they had already tried to recruit me. If I had gone to training then, I would definitely have been in that military operations that spring. Then my thoughts went along the following scenario. I was still young. I hadn't been anywhere. I hadn't seen anything of the world. Why should I waste my life and health on other people's political games? Besides, my karma and my extraterrestrial past are dear to me. I understood what awaited me in Russia. There would be no choice here. There would be no freedom without freedom. Freedom is paradise. And history repeats itself cyclically. A new cycle is coming soon. There are two paths, up or down. I'm sure a smart person will get the hint. I was driving my car at the end of March to work as a taxi driver. I stopped to fill up the tank, and after filling up, strange, yes, a powerful thought, but no longer as spontaneous as it seemed at first glance. I didn't go to work as a taxi driver, but to the dealership. Why, you ask? To sell the car. I simply made the decision one day and sold it. At the time, car prices had risen in the country, and the car was almost a year old, so I should have gotten insurance and maintenance the following year. Then I started preparing for the trip, sold my other belongings, and got insurance and a 6 months visa to India, sticker and passport. And why India? Why India, you ask? I wanted to go beyond the borders of Russia's influence, that is, beyond the former Soviet Union. I'd never been there, not even as of a couple of weeks ago to Kazakhstan. And as you can see, it was worth it. In Kazakhstan, there is nothing to do with Russian passport, and you can't work. There is only a 90 days visa-free period, and if necessary, you will be immediately sent back to your host in Russia. India, on the other hand, has the ocean, the fruits. It's a different world. As a child, Indian melodramas were often shown on TV. Many of my friends talked about India, how they or their relatives had traveled there to find themselves. First, there was a flight via Dubai. I spent one day walking there, reached the Persian Gulf, and swam in it. The water there was wonderful, soft and hot. What a contrast awaited me in the Indian capital, New Delhi. Crowds of people, humid heat, just like Shantaram in Mumbai. 5 days during which I visited many places. I drank the best mango juice in my life. By the way, a huge glass for only 70 rupees or rubles. No, important. And much more. One of the places to visit was the Sikh temple, the Gurudwara. I was lucky with my guide, and the man showed me around and even ate free food, and I even ate free food with these people at the temple. How unusual it all was. There was an incident with a package of paints sent to a friend of mine in Goa. I didn't want to go there myself at the time because of the monsoon, I would say, very strong rains. I was scammed by the people at the hotel with this package, and my friend barely managed to get it back a month later. This taught me not to trust Hindus, although they are good people. It seems there are a lot of scammers among them. I don't know really. Maybe these guys there in Delhi, they was not Hindus but Muslims, but I don't know. These scammers from the capital Delhi sent me to the states of Jammu and Kashmir instead of the Himalayas and Manali. A real nightmare, as Sai and I later called that state. On the way in a taxi through Delhi at night, a policeman stopped me, asked to see my things, and asked where I am, where am I going? I said there, I mean Kashmir, and he said go south. South India is beautiful. That was a sign for me. I flew to Srinagar and instead of the promised guest house with a bunch of Europeans, I saw a private house where I was the only guest. There was a family there, a man and a woman around 50 years old, except for the guy who picked me up from the airport. It was supposedly an all-inclusive tour in an old Renault with a broken mirror. Long story short, I was eating the fruit I bought for myself, and these people were eating my fruits too. Then we went to this guy's office, and he absolutely refused to give me internet. My Indian SIM card Vodafone, I think, didn't work in Kashmir. There was martial law there, and armed soldiers were stationed along the lake and the road. I insisted on leaving, especially after the guy said we would have a smoke that evening and then go to the mountains in the morning. Think about why I got nervous. I said, take me to the airport. My friends have lost me. Then we went to his house where I picked up my bag. Why bother taking so many things? I immediately threw out my old boots. It's so hot there that you have to leave anything warm in Russia unless you go into the mountains. I put the bag in the back seat of the car where I got in. The guy spoke to me in English, but when we drove from his house to the airport, I even paid him for the ride with the money I left in cash. Fortunately, I hadn't withdrawn much. He spoke a language I didn't understand, was constantly nervous, and said he couldn't take me to the airport itself. It felt like another car would stop and they would force me out at gunpoint and take me somewhere. By the way, did you know that this area is one of the most dangerous and it's a major traffic zone for illegal immigrants and slaves? I didn't know that back then. Read up. Anyway, I said I was feeling unwell, and when there was a traffic jam, I saw a sign in English that said taxi service. So I simply opened the door, slapped the guy on the shoulder, and took my bag. He even turned around later to watch me negotiate with the taxi company. I didn't have any cash, but I managed to convince the taxi driver to take me to the airport where I could withdraw money, rupees, from the Russian Agricultural Bank right away, and everything worked out. When the soldier asked me where I was from Russia, he just smiled. At times like this, anyone would be happy. There is nothing to hide. Almost every country has good relations with India, and they are generally open people. Then I flew to Bangalore. I'll skip some details. For example, the girl at the information desk gave me Wi-Fi to buy a ticket for the sake of brevity, but again, I'll say it again. Indians are generally very welcoming and won't refuse you, although they might cheat you out of your money. Bangalore was great, the majestic, and then another 5-7 days, then Puttaparthi, more precisely Then almost 2 months in Puttaparthi. I met many Russians there who came as pilgrims or had already lived for some time or a long time as Amasai. This woman named Irina from St. Petersburg went to India back in the 90s at the invitation of Baba himself. He was visiting Russia and she danced Indian dances for the delegation. In Puttaparthi, I thought a lot about religion. The time had come to leave Puttaparthi too, as the monsoon was waning by September. I was so desperate for the ocean, I couldn't stop it. There is a video of me moving from Puttaparthi to Goa. First Vasco da Gama, then a night in Panaji, then via Mapusa, like Shantaram, to Sealim, and then to Arambol. First Food Planet. Hi Lina, I remember you. You are beauty. Thank you for everything. I will dwell a bit on Vasco. I couldn't stop thinking about my pastor at the Lutheran church in Russia for a long time. After Puttaparthi, I wrote to him about everything I learned and thought about during that time. What do you think? He didn't even answer my questions. Long story short, now I leave that connection alone too. On my very first morning in Arambol, I went for a run along the ocean. It was unforgettable. Workout on the sand. Then I immediately found a place to live. You just have to go into houses and talk to the locals for 6,000 rubles or rupees. Back then, I wasn't even thinking about working in the country, and I had enough money which lasted me until I got to the USA, where the Yankees themselves bought me tickets when I was deported to Russia. It was around the time that I met Vika. Hi. While I was looking for a place to live. The stranger thing is that beside the trips to the quarry, I remember one incident with Vika very vividly. It was an evening when I was sitting as a passenger on her scooter and we were riding in the dark along the road where we lived. It was really scary when you're not driving. Vika taught me how to ride a scooter. Then there was the quarry, then rides with the guys to different places and with Skola to Old Goa, a great episode on the channel. I started editing videos on my laptop, no longer on my phone. It's incredibly inconvenient. Editing video from an old, bad, without stabilization cell phone camera. Then Lina asked in October, do you want to go on a film shoot? I went past the casting and went with others to Madras. Chennai was very interesting, the other side of India. The most memorable things were my morning workouts, exercise on the roof, filming in warm clothes in the heat, and the Indian festival of Diwali. Watch the video. Finally, I traveled independently from Bangalore to Hampi, having broken away from the organized group heading to Goa. Hampi, it is an ancient place with authentic Hindu culture. I made 3 films about Hampi and then returned to Arambol by train. The second time, it felt like home. Before the trip to Madras, I was waiting for a friend from Russia. I hid the keys to his apartment, the second floor of a large private house for him. That's exactly how I would build a house like the owners of that house, Indians. They essentially live on the first floor and rent out the second while they are building a third floor for rent. Returning to Arambol, I was already met by a friend with home with gone swimming at the beach on the Arabian Sea. Oh, what a blessed time it was. It's already early November and there is no rain in Goa. Even our quarry has dried up. My friend and I used to go there on scooters, or rather, I started learning how to ride a motorcycle, an old Honda. And I even taught Mikhail to ride this Honda. Hi, Misha. I hope there is one more motorcyclist in Sweden now. No rain, and the sea was smooth, stunning waves. I lay there often on my back meditating, but I also often swam fairly long distances, about 1 kilometer, swimming beyond the first river 100 meters from the shore. In reality, Dima, the coach, taught me how to ride motorcycles. There is a video about it too. Dima taught me how to do a handstand, and Kola taught me a little about financial literacy. Thanks, guys. My friend Tola flew back to Russia a week later, just after I returned from Hampi. I was already fascinated by the Akashic Chronicles. This is precisely the part of Indian culture associated with spirituality. Living in Puttaparthi, visiting the Rorik Museum in Bangalore, visiting various temples of all religions, then the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul, and churches in Latin America. I myself am quite religious myself. More precisely, I am aware of the otherworldly influence on our world, and I am familiar with the works of Carlos Castaneda. I probably associate myself more with the monks as the Jedi monks see it. So I'm getting carried away, but the point is that in Madras, I learned from one of the guys on the set. On the set, shooting. The film had a prison theme, which I later recalled in American Detention, that his channel was called the Akashic Chronicles. What is that? I didn't give it much thought, but about a week later, when I returned to Arambol, walking along the beach, I noticed something written on a girl's sheet of paper. Akashic Chronicles. What is that again? I went back and asked. She replied that it was a kind of sphere where one could obtain information about our lives, and if I wanted, she could tell me the answers to my questions for a modest fee, 500 rubles or rupees, a very small sum, you see. So she didn't get rich from this. We exchanged numbers, and a week later she called. We were sitting in a cafe by the ocean across from each other, and I was asking. She said I had arrows. More accurately, it would have been more correct to start with the fact that I was already wanting to leave India. My first questions to her was whether I should go to Latin America. A couple of weeks later, I got a visa run to Thailand, Phuket, watched a movie about it. I got a 1 year business visa and could have stayed in India for 5 years, opening a store with an Indian, for example, but I had already decided to fly to La China before the Akashic Records. Before I met her. So, again, this was a decision made before I met the girl. She said there were 3 arrows in my field. Again, this arrow, yeah? 3 arrows in my field, and one main one pointing north, without naming the countries. I now see the 3 arrows as Argentina, Brazil, and Central America. This correlates perfectly with my bus trips through these three corresponding regions. Jumping ahead a bit, I can say that in a sense, luck was on my side, and the main arrow also came true. I did end up in the USA, if I understood the prophecy correctly. Another thing is that I was supposed to have the experience of an immigrant prison. Mind you, not a mistake, but an experience. It taught me patience, made me much tougher and more serious, aware of the finiteness of life, and also understanding that all this politics is propaganda. There are slaves and there is propaganda. Read up on maritime law, guys. Read up. There are things that are above people, or to be more precise, there are someone that are above people. So now I have little interest in politics in any country. Now I just want to find my home and family, as I'm not happy with what's happening in the country where I was born. By the way, I take this opportunity to declare myself a living person, not just an individual, not just a passport. To be honest, when I was already in Argentina, this wonderful country, I often walked around and wondered what my final decision should be. Should I go on? I also consider this girl's advice, not relying solely on it, of course, more on that later. She also answered my question about whether I would return to Russia. She said, no, you see, and I wouldn't have returned myself, but US law trumps the Akashic records. As Don Juan said, the turns of power are difficult to predict, and a lie will cast you into unknown worlds, and to survive you need crystal clarity and absolute self-confidence. In general, the wisdom in Carlos Castaneda's books has always amazed me, and one phrase or another can be applied to any situation. How these phrases saved me in detention. For example, about how the Toltecs escaped from the Spaniards. They were such good runners that they could run 200 kilometers a day. It's like a situation when old civilization can accept a new one. She also said that somewhere in the arrows, she didn't name the map. Those chronicles don't use our terms, names of countries, of professions. They communicate through images and meanings. A wife is waiting for me, and that my two children are already ready to arrive in the other world. They are expected to be born in 2 or 3 years. She also said that goals can be redefined, because if we don't manage to accomplish something set for us, or if we do manage to accomplish it, well, the deadlines can shift. As we can see today, none of it has come true. At the time of writing, as I write this, June 1st, 2026, I am actually re-entering Russia from Aktobe, Kazakhstan, heading to St. Petersburg to work on buses again on a rotational basis, and then try to leave Russia again at the end of July. Really, this time at the end of July when I'm making this audio. And it's it. That's it. I'm here again in Kazakhstan. I have a aim. I have a purpose to be here. I'll finish with the chronicles. There was also talk about a fishing road candles, and the big man who's keeping an eye on me. Let's return to India. November. My friend is leaving. The tourist season opens after the monsoon rainy season. I understand that I need to move out of this house since the owners won't be happy with the rent of 6,000 rupees when they rented out the symmetrical apartment next door for 20,000. And so, on the last day of Tolik's departure in the evening, we are walking along the road and hear shouts, "Hey guys, are you Russians?" Olga, hi. Thanks to Olga, this woman with such a gesture, I haven't yet said that India is a karmic country. She arranges the pieces on the board. I get an apartment in a different building for 4 months. By the way, watch the video about the trip to Turkey to see what that apartment looked like. Then I decided to buy tickets to Argentina for March via Turkey. Back then, flying through Turkey to Latin America wasn't a problem for Russians. Around that time, Kola got himself a new Google Pixel phone, and I asked him to order me an identical one. The new videos from that purchase were recorded on the new phone's camera. It is no longer with me. It didn't survive the software update in Russia, perhaps due to sanctions or poor internet access. No, I don't know. My life for those 4 months, and I paid 8,000 rubles or 32,000 rupees for 4 months, was like studying at university. I stopped riding my motorcycle. I often sat at the computer to watch videos about Latin America countries. I studied Spanish, started with 16 lessons from Dmitry Petrov and Lina Ispanechka on YouTube. I mean, like Russian Spanish professors. I reminisced about my beloved solid works. I mean, this 3D program. I went jogging in the morning and strolled along the ocean in the evening. Tiny Indian bananas, watermelons, and other fruits. Pineapples for 50 rupees. Wherever you live in the future, try to switch to a fruit-based diet. Cleanse your body and eat raw food, becoming a fruit hunter. It was high time to switch to a systematic 2 meal a day diet, or even just 1 meal a day, and eat 5 times less than the average person. That is, practice a low nutrition regime that will eventually become a regular diet. When we eat like we are in a cafeteria, we stretch our stomachs and don't absorb most of the nutrients. In reality, a person doesn't need to eat that much. Excess simply pollutes the body little by little. There was another memorable video, a New Year's greeting for 2023. New Year by the ocean. Salute. Yeah, it was very interesting for me. New experience on the ocean. I also tried making videos with catchy titles like Prices in Goa. Goa is not an island. How to learn English, but apparently the quality of the filming and my preparation for the videos themselves, shot impromptu as an experiment, prevented them from getting many views. Besides, I like to make videos long. I feel like I'll miss something, and people don't have time to look at the sites. They need information. March arrived, and then there was a flight to Turkey, then a long one to Argentina. Now I realize it wasn't as long as the return trip from the US of three flights within the US alone, then China Moscow. It was a very long one, 4 days. In Turkey, I wanted to see the Sea of Marmara and some places in Istanbul. Watch the video. Okay, hurrah! We have made it to Latin America, Argentina. My very first video got 6,000 and a half views, but then it plateaued, slowly stopped. There were a few others that I even like better. The aggregator still runs ads on them, which doesn't give me any income, but they didn't become popular. But it's so nice to rewatch the channel's primary goal is to create memories for myself. It's June 2nd and I'm writing this from a hostel in Orenburg, South Russia, border city with Kazakhstan. It's 11 a.m. I think I've got it all figured out, but how do I start and continue this thread? Okay, about India, it's more or less clear. Lots of signs. A stone falling on the spot where I was lying during filming in Madras, in Chennai, I mean. I had just gotten up when someone called me. Just imagine the big stone falling on the place where was my head, but thanks God. White people, I mean, another causes. White people aren't allowed to hold certain jobs. Indians can beat you up for competing. For example, if you drive taxi. The scam at the private clinic when I was scammed out of a large sum of money, and my friend scammed with the package of paintings from Delhi, then Kashmir, and the inability to obtain citizenship and so on. Where should I even begin talking about Latin America? I think I'll take a break, have a snack, and think until the evening. No one's writing for me, and speed isn't important right now. What matters is recalling the main points briefly, remembering the characters and the sequence of that film. Patience, friends. The main thing is to record 3 or 4 audio files by August, another 2 months with white nights and bus rides in St. Petersburg, and then overlay them with the video. Upload all 3 to a channel for people speaking different languages. I'm still debating whether to keep the channel for Russian-speaking audiences or rather continue it in Russian or start a new project in Spanish, Portuguese, English. Okay, time will tell, because this channel doesn't bring me anything except my personal achieve. For now, a pause. So, here we go. I arrived in Argentina, Buenos Aires. I knew nothing, booked a hostel as always in advance, showed my reservation and exit tickets at the border. They gave me 90 days. It took me a long time to figure out where to exchange money and how to pay for a taxi to the hotel at the airport. Off we go. In the taxi, I realized that a couple of months of Spanish hadn't gotten me much closer to understanding what the taxi driver was saying. While exploring YouTube about Argentina, I saw a video of a hairdresser who had moved to Buenos Aires. I saved his contact information, and since I often think I need to solve problems as they arise, I messaged him that morning when I was already in Argentina. I asked him what he was doing, if I wanted to meet up. and if he could help me with my first acquaintance with the city. He's a great guy. He responded right away and said he'd give me Anton's contact information. Anthony was looking for a way to become a local guide. He'd already lived in Argentina for a while, about the same time I lived in India. We met downtown that afternoon, almost by the obelisk. Hi, Anthony. Hi. Anton turned out to be a great guy. He showed me around the center and a good Peruvian restaurant, most importantly, inexpensive, which turned out to be the best place in the city, in my opinion, with the kind of cuisine I am used to. We bought a Claro SIM card. Anthony also shared some valuable information about what's going on in the city. It's really not very safe there. You can get killed on the street, and it's best to hand over your phone if you are threatened with a knife. But overall, it's livable. At first, I was apprehensive about everything, but then I got used to it. The locals walk around with their backpacks in front of them so anyone doesn't steal your things. There was a case where a Russian was robbed by undercover police officers who were allowed into his front door by his concierge, and that happens there too. Watch the series Narcos, all the parts about Escobar in Mexico, about Latin America cartels if you are planning on living there. But there are plenty of advantages. For example, if you want to sleep on a bench, the police won't haul you off to the police office. Locals simply sleep at convenient entrances with rooftops on the ground floor, like car dealerships. Okay, so the security part is clear. I wasn't particularly afraid, and I have nothing to take from me. So about the goals. When I arrived, I realized I could study at university for free, albeit in the local languages, Argentinian Spanish. On Anton's advice, I took lessons from a female tutor, the one he had studied with. It was very interesting, but it was a waste of money. Let me explain. To get into university, you need a verified language certificate, usually B2, so I need courses. I also need a document to show the immigration service about what I am doing in Argentina when I need to expand my stay after 90 days. I found such a course. It was the University of Buenos Aires. A little hassle with paying for the courses, and I'm already enrolled in a real UBA department. Studying at UBA is awesome. Going to the building and studying with professors who teach at an official renowned university, great. 3 months passed and I received an A2 certificate. It's on my Facebook page. Then, however, I realized that even knowing the language and getting into university, I wouldn't be able to support myself. With Anton's help, I rented my first apartment in Argentina. It was expensive, $400, not pesos, months in the Belgrano area. Don't do that. It's a waste of money. You need a long-term contract. Then the rent can be affordable. It could be as low as $50 that time in 2023. In fact, the salaries there are low. I read in the newspapers that low-level police officers can earn as little as $200 a month. They have this opportunity to rent for $50. My next step was to sign up for professional chief courses. It cost $200 a month for the 2 courses I needed. general kitchen and specialized kitchen. So by August, I was already taking the courses. The theory course is sent in Spanish to your personal account. You prepare for at least 2 days before the practical course and then practice 1 or 2 times a week. And I had a document for the immigration service stating that I was attending culinary school. While living in Buenos Aires, I not only studied but also went out, occasionally tried the local cuisine at cafes, met girls, and went running to stay in shape. I made a good friend, Mercedes. Hello, Mercedes. What a beautiful name. We spend a lot of time talking and walking in Spanish. It's a great way to learn to speak with a native speaker. Her ancestors immigrated from Spain during the dictatorship. We traveled to Tigre together and walked a lot. I would have married a girl like that, but I honestly didn't understand why she wanted me. So, of course, I never mentioned it to her. There were also brief encounters or just with random people. A female tourist from Spain once sat down on my bench. Another time in that Peruvian cafe, that very same one, a Colombian woman clearly wanted to get to know me. We communicated well using a mixture of English and Spanish. Incidentally, none of my acquaintances wanted to go to the US of A. Even after living there, I often heard people say, "No, I don't want to, it's not safe," or simply expressing their thoughts about how they didn't like it. During my first week in Buenos Aires, I wanted to see if it was possible to live cheaper and more interesting elsewhere. I was seeing a guy on YouTube channel back then. He lived in Cordoba. I went to Cordoba. In fact, the first film about Argentina has shorts of a huge Argentine bus in a campo. I realized during that short trip that it wouldn't be much cheaper, even though I'd lived in Cordoba for the last 2 months in Argentina for $200 and really like it. I would say there would be fewer opportunities for education and worse food options. After all, there is a much better selection in the capital stores. And I also wanted to take language courses, but first time I didn't understand ways better. By the way, scorpions often enter apartments in Cordoba, although I've never seen one there. After the new presidential election in November 2023, I left for Cordoba. In November, I approached the manager of a culinary school to ask if I could continue my studies and work in a real cafe or restaurant. They didn't offer me anything, so I decided to leave Buenos Aires to see what a life was like in the provinces. I also visited Mendoza, watched the video, a place familiar to everyone for its Argentine wine. It's in the foothills of the Andes, and Santiago, the capital of Chile, is 100 or so miles away as the crow flies. So the longer I was in Argentina, the more I wanted to go to Brazil. I spent a couple of days in Mar del Plata and saw that the ocean there was cold like in Chile. I learned that in terms of GDP, gross domestic product, which sounds funny for those familiar with the propaganda that used to be in Russia, the whole of Argentina is smaller than Sao Paulo alone. Honestly, I fell in love with Argentina. I fell in love with Argentina. 11 months of living there don't just go by without leaving a mark, but I wanted to be by the sea and somewhere warm. Buenos Aires um, has cold winters. Snow falls once every 20 years, but where I lived, basically, housing is designed for summer heat. Argentines, I adore you, are open people, but they're on their own wavelengths, just like in Russia. The only thing holding me back was the fear of moving on. But you can't escape fate. By the way, Anthony flew to Dubai sometime in September. He found a job there. They're drumming so many fears. They are drumming so many fears into us that we don't try to change anything. We are afraid of the Latin guys. They're afraid of the Russians. The Matrix benefits from obedientship. Slaves work and don't lift their heads from their plows. Of course, not everything is perfect. Of course, it's better where we aren't, and there are a lot of other phrases like where you were born, there you will find your place. It's all nonsense. Just take control of your life and go for it. Don't ask anyone. Be superhuman, like Howard Rourke in Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead. Finally, I learned from Brazilian women living in Argentina that the southern states of Brazil are safe, and then the main thing is to overcome my primal fear. Let's go. First there was Iguazu, then thoughts about a Paraguayan residence permit, then Florianopolis as Brazil's most expensive island where I live for $200, then bus rides through the main cities to Rio de Janeiro, then doubts about buying tickets to Panama, and the local travel agencies are reluctant to help me. Panama, and from there a bus all the way to Mexico. I'm returning to El Salvador. 2 months in El Salvador, the best hotel of my life in San Salvador. Hello, Carolina. Then a plane to Mexico City. Hello, Stephanie. Then Alameda Park. I'll tell you in detail how I crossed the border into the USA from the Tijuana. I'll also tell you how I ended up in detention, how I worked in the kitchen for 6 months, who surrounded me in the immigrant camp, and what I was thinking about. Evening conversation with a Venezuelan in red shorts, a Romanian and Uzbek, a Kyrgyz, and so on, a Peruvian and a Belarusian, a church parish in detention, and Catholic Guatemalans, a soccer field. The morning after Pope Francis died, I was taken by ISIS to airport, ICE immigration officer. Arrival via China, Russia, Moscow, Ijevsk buses, and now I'm in St. Petersburg, and soon, if the will of God allows, I will leave Russia once again, hopefully forever. I want to live in a different reality, but I'll tell you all about this in the second part of this video, since this one is already running long.